Hello, 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 and welcome to the My Empty Hands podcast, a conversation about Kempo and the martial arts and whatever other items we decide to talk about today. I am Reggie Darden, and today I have with me Pat Munk, and we're just going to kind of jump right in and talk some Kempo. So, just to give a little background on my history, I started in Chinese Kempo in early to mid '90s. Um, I'm from Southern California, so I was training at a school there. The curriculum was, I guess, essentially that of the Tracy's system, Tracy's version of Kempo. I did that for a few years, got to my green belt, in which I then left for the Army. While I was in the Army, I did a little bit of Taekwondo, a little bit of Hapkido, and some boxing, and enjoyed that. But still kept my love for Kempo. After I got out of the military, I found my second love or course system, and that was of capoeira, and I've been doing capoeira for about 17 years now. While still, keeping my love for Kempo, I found an American Kempo school here. I'm now living in the Dallas Fort Worth area, and been training American Kempo, and I am now a green belt in that version, and just enjoying the journey, and now with this podcast here, get to talk to all sorts of folks, and just want to kind of hear your story. So if you could just let me and the listeners know, how did Kempo find you? Where did it all start for you? And uh, what has the journey been like for you since then?
Well, it started back in the mid 70s, and I found Kempo kind of by accident. Uh, I was working for a bank at the time, and I wanted to take some self defense lessons because we were kind of in a bad neighborhood, some of the branches we had to go to and stuff. So uh, I just happened to one day ask our secretary if she would call some karate schools and get some information for me so I could figure out where I wanted to go. But when I got back that afternoon, she said, "Well, I found one that would tell me something. The rest of them said, come in and we would see." And so it was a Tracy school in Louisville, Kentucky. And so I set up an appointment and went to see them and started training. Uh, my first instructor was Joe Renzi in Louisville. And I stayed with him through my first belt. And then he was in law enforcement, so he was missing classes and stuff. So the owner of the school, which was Gary Avery, uh, took me under his wing, and I trained with him uh, through second black. I got up to second black under him. uh, I spent a lot of hours at the school. Uh, I left the bank and was working on my own. I was a farrier, and so when I wasn't underneath the horseshoe and putting shoes on, I was at the karate studio. So uh, I spent a lot of time there, and the school closed up um, right before 1980, around 79 or so. It's closed up. But the last year and a half or 2 years prior to it doing that, I was in the studio when it opened up, and I walked out the door with the instructor when they closed the doors. And I did that 4 days a week. So we spent a lot of time fighting. We spent a lot of time working techniques and stuff. And uh, I just fell in love with it, and it's one of the things that just kept me going. Uh,
Right on. Yeah,
back
I
in
I had similar. When I started, I actually Started with a friend of mine. We saw the movie The Perfect Weapon with Jeff Speakman, and we said, "Oh man, we got to do that." And my friend actually signed up at the school first, and I wasn't able to sign up right away, but I would go to the school, right when they opened, and would sit and watch classes all night until they closed. And yeah, I was there every day, and just was really just drawn to it, and excited. And so when I finally got the green light to go ahead and sign up myself, that was probably maybe like, I don't know, 6 months, maybe even a year in. And I would just kind of hit the ground running, and it was same thing. I'd show up right for class, and wouldn't leave until they kicked us out at night. So yeah, I can definitely relate to that.
Well, that's when I was spending all that time in there. Of course, I took classes, off and on, but during the days when I was there, he didn't have a student come in. He'd do a class with me. And I wrote everything down. I ended up writing a manual of all the techniques, and kind of just an outline manual and stuff. And uh, then I lost track of Gary for several years, and about 10 years ago, uh, I was talking with him. We were visiting him, and I was talking with him. I said, I'd like to have the old manual you all used to have at the studio to teach from. He said, "Yeah, I got one of those. I'll give it to you." So he made me a copy of it, and he handed it to me. I looked at it, and I said, "Well, I wrote this one. This is the one I wrote." So he was still using it, uh, I guess, to this day. And uh, I left Indiana and Louisville area, and moved to Georgia. I got in law enforcement, and I was in law enforcement until 1980. Well, 1988 is when I left the road. Uh, I was involved in a shooting situation, and I never did go back on the road after that. But I went into training, and they assigned me to the state regional police academy as an instructor. And I taught defensive tactics. I taught the straight baton, the expandable baton, the side handle baton or PR-24. I taught tactical handcuffing. There was a tactical flashlight class, which was a kind of a baton class in itself. And uh, I run several of the basic mandate classes and stuff like that. But while I was at the academy, I got the opportunity to train with a lot of top-notch people in the law enforcement training stuff. And so I got kind of broke away. I stayed with the Tracys for years and years and years, um, up until I guess it was 2010, 2011, when I kind of just moved on and started doing my own thing. And uh, so, Mr. Tracy had promoted me from third to seventh. And then I got with Grandmaster Tim Toussaint, and he promoted me on up to where I am now at 10th. And uh, I just been doing my thing, and there's a lot of things that we did or I did coming up through the years was we broke all the techniques down and all the self-defense techniques down. And I got to a point where I said, it's not about the techniques anymore. It's not about the techniques. The techniques are training aids. I don't feel that uh, a person that gets involved has to get involved in a self-defense situation. I don't think he should use a textbook technique. In other words, from start to finish, because the situation is not going to allow that to happen. I feel like it's going to be, in my experience, and I've been involved in several confrontations and stuff, and in breaking up confrontations and see how these go. They don't go like you plan, and uh, I agree with a lot of the criticisms about Kempo. They say, well, nobody's going to stand there and let you hit them that many times, you know. Well, that's true, but uh, you can't say they're not going to just stand there, because if you're doing, I feel like if you're doing what you're doing, it's been my experience that if you do what you do, you're going to freeze them in their tracks and they're going to stand there and let you beat on them. They don't mean to, but they're going, yep, I'm going to force them to do that. So we broke the techniques down, and uh, I was teaching my brother at the time, and I figured, well, you know, what better way to test, try, and make mistakes when you don't have students, you know, no students, so his family. He would learn the technique, get it down real good, and then I'd mess it up. Excuse me. And then we'd get a fix for that. And then we'd mess it up again and we'd fix it. We get to the point where we couldn't mess it up. And what we found was, okay, we started off with the technique, but we didn't end in that technique. We ended somewhere else. And I'm a firm believer when you're talking about self defense that he's only going to do what I allow him to do. If I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and it's in any martial art, no matter what style it is, if they hit you, you let them do it. You know, if you get hurt, you let them do it. And something goes wrong. Now, maybe something, maybe he's asleep or whatever. I don't know. You know, it could be anything. But uh, you have to be able to control what that person does and what he's allowed to do, and make him come to you and kind of get in your realm instead of you going into his. Um, and over the years, we just come up with little methods and little subtle things. A lot of the stuff I do is exactly like the Tracy's do it. Some of the stuff I do is kind of like what the Tracy's do, but it's slightly different, and it's subtle differences, you know.
Okay. So did you? So with with kind of battle testing the techniques. So did you kind of come up with a new curriculum, or did you just kind of make notes as far as okay, well, with this technique, we found that these parts maybe don't work, or need to be altered, or um,
Well, don't get me
was
wrong. I think the techniques as they're laid out work fine. The problem being is if someone attacks or you get in a situation where you have to defend yourself, before you know what technique you're going to do, you have to be aware of what he's doing. He has to do something to trigger that. And even in American Kempo, when they got the number of techniques they have, plus the Tracy's Kempo's got 600 or 700 to pull from. By the time you figure out which one you want to do for that situation, he's already hit you. It's already over. So you have to respond. You respond, and what I try to teach my students is respond to the initial thing and go where he gives you. Take what he gives you and just do something with it. You might start off, and I think even Mr. Parker has made comments at some seminars and stuff. You start off with this technique, and you might go one move into it, then go to this technique, and maybe two moves into it, and then go back to this technique. And that's basically what I'm doing. Start off with the move. Don't worry about what technique you're going to do. Just do something to neutralize that initial assault, and then do what's appropriate for wherever he goes and whatever he does. Because you know people don't move like, and they don't react or respond like you would see in a studio. And you have to be able to instantly adapt. So you have to go in
gotcha,
and make
gotcha.
subtle changes.
Gotcha. I think what I'm kind of more specifically asking is, so do you still do you teach the Tracy curriculum now, or is it your own version of that, or is it
I basically teach the Tracy curriculum up through. up to second black. After second black, I've modified a lot because a lot of those techniques are uh, uh, it's hard for a lot of people to do, especially if they got knee injuries or they got back injuries or something like that. And over the years, it takes a toll on you. So that belt I've modified and took some techniques out, added techniques back in. But what I teach is mostly the Tracy system, and it's just more than not teaching the techniques. It's how I go about discussing the techniques and the detail. We go into a lot of detail on the movements and stuff and the subtleties of the techniques. I come up through the arts as a subpar 130 guy. you know I was a lightweight. I mean, and my instructor makes comments all the time. He said the only reason you survived is they couldn't catch you.
Hey,
So I
it's
know
like
what it's
Mr.
like to be
Miyagi says.
small.
It's like Mr. Miyagi says. Best defense is no be there. So
No,
yeah,
be there. Yeah.
yeah. So being
but
quick is definitely gonna definitely gonna help you there. So
but it. I come from a small background, small person background, and after when I got a little heavier and got the bulk up that well would like to have been back then, things were easier. And so I still teach from that small person perspective. I want somebody that's 120, 130 to be able to do everything that somebody 210 or 220 can do. It's just a matter of how they do it and the little subtle things and is kind of where it's at. You can't use strength all the time because no matter how strong you are, there's always going to be somebody you're going to run into that's stronger than you are, and you got to be able to deal with that with like a big guy, even though you're little. Now, granted, I mean you're not going to hit him one time and take him out, but you can still hit him and hurt him. You know?
so with your the police training that you did and the baton and stuff like that, did you integrate any of that into the curriculum or uh,
Yes, as much as I could, much as they would let me, put it that way. Um, I, at the time I was at the academy, I wrote and developed the lesson plan that they used for defensive tactics and arrest procedures. And I also wrote a class for um, defensive tactics. It was unarmed defenses, and it was strictly a Kempo class. I mean, I went through the system and pulled out techniques and wrote a manual and all and basically taught, I guess, 15 by 15 Kempo techniques for the basic. These are the situations you're going to deal with. These are things you can do. I said, and it wasn't a class that you would normally an officer would use every day. I would. It was prefaced with, okay, things have gone to hell in a handbasket. You're in a fight. Your life's on the line. This is what you do. So, went up the force continuum. We didn't start at the bottom, work up. We started at the upper end of the force continuum, and uh, started out. There was like 8 students in the first class. I did 5 classes, and the last class had like 35 to 40 students in it. Because once they got out, you need to do this. Everybody come and took it, and it was just a basic Kempo class. And so I did incorporate a lot of the theories and principles in the stuff that we did. Um, I coordinated and was involved in a lot of uh, defensive tactics instructor classes and stuff like that. And when I'd see somebody having trouble doing what they was teaching, I would kind of go over and, well, here, do this and do it this way. And as soon as they would do that, they could make it work. And I got in a lot of trouble for not being kosher with what's going on. I didn't like their answers when you ask them, so why can't I do that? When they say you can't do that, so why not? They said, well, we've never done that way before. I said, that's not a good reason. They
yeah,
keep doing
yeah.
bad stuff.
No, I agree. So actually, that kind of leads me into something that I've been curious about. So with Ed Parker evolving the Kempo as he was teaching it, and there was I guess I don't want to say the split, but just the Tracy's kind of took their path. So being in that lineage, uh, you know, were you and maybe the greater Tracy community were how were they following, or I should say how were kind of you following what you know Ed Parker's uh, evolution of it. You know, was there any kind of discussion about integrating that, or it was just hey, he's doing his thing, we're doing our thing, and was there any kind of cross pollination, or just kind of? I'm just kind of curious, kind of what the as at least from your perspective, uh, what the kind of thought process was with the different paths.
Well, when we didn't talk about American Kempo much at the school that I was in. Um my instructors come from a Kang Kwan background, and they got involved in Tracy's back in the '60s and run studios and stuff. My instructor was a student of and with Roger Green, uh, Oklahoma fame, one of the baddest dudes on the planet when he was alive. um, so we didn't talk about American Kempo too much, other than the fact that um, in the early days, say the late '60s and maybe early '70s, you know, the two systems kind of run side by side pretty much. Maybe they had different names for the techniques and stuff, but I mean, once you get a cross reference sheet, the techniques were pretty close to the same. And then when Mr. Parker just started evolving his system and changing it and making it what it is today, uh, it, you know, now you see the techniques and he's like, well, yeah, we do that technique, but not like that. Um, so the Tracy's went on and pretty much developed, kept the old way they learned, and uh, didn't make any kind of those changes that Mr. Parker did. Um, I've worked out with a lot of American Kempo people, and we have a lot of differences. And I didn't like some of the things they did, and they didn't like some of the things I did. So I mean, it was back and forth. But then we agreed on one thing: it's Kempo, and it works. And um, I've never had the Kempo that I learned. I've never had it fail me. Uh, I've been banged up pretty good, but I've always come out on top. Um, and that's what it's all about. You do what you can, and don't dwell on the politics. I mean, I tried to stay out of politics. I didn't want to have anything to do with that. I mean, you can badmouth this group or badmouth that group. Well, you know, I don't think any style is better than another style. It's the person training in the styles that is the best. If one style was better, all your world champions would be of one style. And when you look at all of the kickboxers and the MMA fighters and your Muay Thai fighters and all that, they it's not the school, it's not the style, it's that athletic ability of that person that's doing the competition. That's what makes him better than anybody else. It didn't matter what style he be be in, he would still be on top. Because you look at all the champions, and I mean, just the majority of the martial arts systems out there have had a world champion somewhere along the line. So uh, it's more about what you put into it and the dedication you have to it and stuff. Um, I've I've had some really good students, and I've had some that that were mediocre, and uh, we all have that. When you're gonna be teaching long, you're gonna have these. Okay, these guys are getting by, and these guys are really good. Uh, but I just want my students to be able to survive a confrontation if they have to. I don't want them to come back and say, "Well, that stuff don't work. You taught me." No, that that's not good. I had a guy come to me. He was an elderly gentleman. He was in his 60s, and he was working, and he had this guy that was bullying him real bad, beating him up and hitting him, pushing him down, tripping him, doing all this kind of stuff. And he come to me and said, "I just need him to stop." I said, "Well, I can help you do that." He said, "I don't want to hurt him. I just want him to stop." I said, "Well, you have unrealistic expectations." I said, "Number one, he's not going to stop until you make him feel something reason to stop." And he trained with me. I mean, he was working on his orange belt at the time, and he comes in one day and he is just ecstatic. I said, "What'd you do?" He said, "Well," he said, "the guy come up." He said, "I knew he was coming up." And he just learned like 2 weeks before the technique shackle break, which is two-hand wrist grab from the back. And the guy come up to push him from behind. He did the technique shackle break without letting the guy grab him and drop him. He said, "Man, this stuff is great. It works so good." Well, he ended up taking the guy out 3 times before he decided to leave him alone. I said, "This is what it's all about, you know." He said, "This stuff really works." I said, "Well, I'm not going to show you something that don't work. You know, that defeats the purpose, you know." And uh, I've always had the belief in my training and when I'm training others is I want to train them to be better than me. That's my goal. Now, whether they achieve that or not, that's up to them. But I'm going to give them the tools and give them what they need to be better than me and even defeat me if they have, if it comes to that. I've only had one that achieved that, but it was he happened to be my son. But I mean, a foot and a half, 2 feet longer reach than me, and a little quicker than me, and a lot younger. Well, it worked out that way. But I want all the students that I train and work with to really uh, be their best. They might not be better than anybody else in school, but be their best. That's what I feel is their goal. Um, I've done seminars all over the country. Uh, I've taught law enforcement all throughout the state of Georgia, and uh, just basically had a good time uh, until the mid '90s when I had some heart issues, had heart surgery stuff. Then I stayed in Kempo for health, just to recuperate and physical therapy and stuff. And it's been a enlightening journey to say the least. I learned something every time. I don't care what belt rank I'm teaching. I learn something every week.
Yeah, that's a big part of the training is always learning. Never stop. Doesn't matter. What belt you get, what rank you're at. There's always more to learn. Always room to grow. And so yeah, that is a good outlook. A good way to see it and to you know let that guide your training. Nobody knows everything, and if they claim that they know everything, then it's time to find another school to
Yeah,
go
they
train
usually
at.
don't when they when they start that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is Kempo the only art that you've trained in, or have you? Uh,
That's the only art I've formally trained in is Kempo. Yes. Now I've trained with and kind of mingled with Shotokan, Goju-Ryu. Uh, I've I've worked with some Taekwondo people, and we exchange ideas and stuff. And I usually, okay, I like that. I don't like the way you did it, so we'll modify it slightly and make it good and keep it. And I throw out what I didn't like and keep what I did like. So there's a lot of things that I can incorporate with the students. If they're having trouble doing something the way I want them to do it, then I might go, I'll switch off and say, okay, we're going to do that technique, but let's do it this way. And when they get done, it looks the same, but the way they're going about it is a little bit different, and it's so subtle that you can't really see it. um, I'm a firm believer of keeping the system as it's supposed to be, like the way I learned, basically the way I learned it. I don't want 3 or 4 generations down, and they're doing a certain technique, and it don't even look like that technique because this person modified it and he taught that modification. This guy can't do it that way, so he modified it, and so now you got things completely changed. You need to change the names of it, and or do something else because it's not the same thing. I like keeping the techniques within one generational switch change to the original, the way it was taught to me, which was the way it was supposed to be taught. Um, so um, when it comes down to it, everybody's going to kind of look like they're doing the same thing, but they might be timing differences, or maybe a slight angle difference, or maybe um, just the way they're going, the subtleties of the movements and stuff. Um, we've been working a lot with weight transference instead of pushing off to go to a stance or pushing off to do a turn or something, just shifting the body weight just a little bit so that it makes it easier to do. And everybody's just going like, why didn't I do this before? I said, well, you were kind of doing it, but you just didn't know you were doing it. And we're emphasizing it. So uh, there's a lot of ways to do things. Uh, I got in a discussion with a young lady in California uh, about what ifs. I said, there no such thing as a what if. There's no what if. She said, well, yes, there is. I said, no, there's no what ifs. It's just a different situation. You know, I said, well, you can do the technique this way, but what if he does this? Well, that makes it a different situation. Just deal with that. Don't do a what if. Because if you're doing a what if, now you got to figure out what to do. And while you're trying to figure out what to do, he's still what ifing on your head. I don't know if I got through with you or not, but I said, well, that's my belief. I just don't think there's such a thing as a what if. It's just a different circumstance. You know.
You know, so over your years of training, maybe what is kind of your outlook on where Kempo is going? Maybe are there things that uh, you would maybe like to see uh, for the future of Kempo, or are there things that maybe you used to do, or that were around that maybe aren't now that maybe you'd like to see come back? And it's kind of what's your kind of thoughts on that?
Well, I think the Kempo is uh, as strong as it was back when I first started. I mean, it's developed. I think it's coming along and developed in a good way and stuff. Um, I wish it would do away with all the politics because I think that is destroying Kempo. I mean, it really put a damper on Parker's Kempo when Mr. Parker died. Because of all the politics and the egos of this and that and the other. Instead of getting together and making it work, they all decided we're doing it the best. Well, when Mr. Tracy died, the same thing started happening with the Tracy system. You know, the politics and all that come in, and I think it hurt it a little bit. But it's making it it's leveling off, and I think both sides, the Parkers, the American Kippo, and the Tracy's Kippo, I think they're both leveling off and starting to be just kind of what they're going to be. Uh, there's uh, too many people that I see out here as I'm training with people and working with them, they they know the techniques, but they don't know the techniques. They memorized a set of moves, and if something goes wrong, they're lost. And it's like you got to be able to adapt. So I think they've gotten too hardcore, and this is the way it's got to be this way. You can't deviate. Well, you have to deviate because I did a seminar out in Washington, and had a guy said, "Pick your favorite technique," and he told me his favorite technique. I said, "Okay, I'm going to attack you. You do that technique." I said, "I'm going to throw a full force committed punch. I'm going to try to hit you. If you don't do it right, I'm going to knock you down." He said, "Okay." I threw the punch, and when he did the first move, he looked around. He said, "Where'd you go?" I said, "I went where it's not. I didn't go anywhere. I just threw the punch, but I'm not where you thought I was going to be." I said, "Why didn't you?" I said, "You throw the punch." So he threw the punch, and I did. He went the same place I did. I said, "Okay, now throw the punch again." So he did. He did went the same place again, and I hit him. I said, "You got to be able to change. You got to be able to adapt." I said, "Because he's not going to be where you think he's going to be, because you're going to put him there, you know." And uh, when got to discussing it, I said, "Look, when you throw a punch," I said, "what do you expect to happen?" Well, he said, "I expect to hit you." I said, "Right." I said, "What do you expect to stop? You're not going to stop the punch, are you?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, what if you don't hit me and you don't stop the punch? Where you go?" He's like, "Hmm." And think about that. I said, "You're nowhere where that technique says I got to throw my next strike, because just your motion is going to move you past that. I have to change." I said, "If you're not ready to do that, then your Kempo's not going to work.
Yep.
I can't hit you 15 times a second. Why would I need to? Only hit
Hmm.
you once, twice."
Yeah, I know most of the Kempo people I've spoken with that have had to use their skills. It's like, yeah, I didn't get past the first first one or two hits. So
Yeah, that's it.
it's
I mean,
great that we have a bunch, but we if one or two gets the job done, then everything else is bonus. So uh, yeah, it's
Professor Chow uh, made a comment, and it holds true. If the fight's not over with in three moves, you're losing, or you're doing something wrong. And people say, "No, man, that's not good. That's not good." I said, "Well, 3 seconds is a lifetime in a fight." Like, I've been there. It's a lifetime in a fight. It's 2 minutes in the ring. Is nothing compared to 30 seconds in a fight, a real fight. And if you can get out of it, get out of it. You know. But when I was in law enforcement and before that, I had kind of a sarcastic attitude. I don't know whether I was initiating something or firing them up or what, but I'd say something smart ass to them, and they'd say, "Give them something to think about. Do you really want to mess with me or not?" And I had a lot of them walk off. And
I like it. I like it. So just to kind of change gears a little bit, and just for kind of my own curiosities. So I definitely want to stay away from the Kempo politics as well, but um, I am curious because I don't really kind of know the story. So um, when Al Tracy passed away, um, was there a situation with uh, the what the legacy was going to be? So of course, with Ed Parker, he didn't name a successor, and so that's where all of that drama went up. Was there something similar with um, with Al Tracy or
Well, the a lot of people will disagree with me and stuff, but I sat back on the outside and watched from the outside in and stuff when he passed away. He set up a panel of uh, 10 10th degree black belts that were supposed to oversee the system and do promotions for ninth and 10th and kind of guide uh, the people running the system. His son Mark and his wife Pat were supposed to be the in the back. She's supposed to do the administrative stuff and kind of run things, and Mark was supposed to be the face of Tracy's Kempo. It didn't take 4 months, and Mark is doing his own thing now. He's out of that altogether, not have anything to do with that group too much because from all the literature and everything I saw, they basically voted him out, and the board was running everything, and uh, I don't think it was right. I mean, of course, I didn't feel like that what they did was right, and they say no, we didn't kick him out. He decided to leave. Well, okay, that's politics. I don't want to get into, and um, I had several years before started doing my own thing and kind of got away, separated myself from that because I could see it coming. What's happened. I could see it was going to happen, and I didn't want to be a part of that. So I'm just out here doing my thing, and I do have a Tracy's background. I teach the Tracy material, and I don't answer to none of them. And I think you know that's the way a lot of the people in American people did. They went off and started doing their own thing, and they had nothing to do with the politics or anything with the people that were trying to take over the Kimball stuff. I mean, Parker's daughters and stuff. They started suing everybody, and I mean, come on, man, I don't need that kind of stuff. You know, let them
yeah,
do
it's
their
really
thing. We do.
unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that there are so many people involved with this art that are more interested in oh well, I have this rank or that rank versus you know spreading the art and we all love this art so much that it should be about getting it out to everybody and sharing that knowledge and instead of just oh well I've got this belt or I've got that belt or you know I know this person or know that person. So yeah, it's really unfortunate that that it happens in all the kind of
Mm.
various branches, but you know
When you
well
look at it, though, it's not just American Kempo. It's not just Tracy's Kempo. It's the Kaji Kempo group. It's the Taekwondo people. It's the Ishinru people. It's the Shotokan people. When their headmaster dies, there's a big bunch of infighting, and it's ridiculous. And so, you know,
you know
I decided to stay out of the politics, and I've done fairly well without having to be involved in that, and that's where I want to stay. I just don't care.
yeah, no,
I
that's a
get
good,
humorous sometimes when I hear some of the things that's going on, but
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
It's a good place to be is outside of that uh unnecessary unnecessary ill will. So yeah, good on that. So let's go ahead and kind of head towards our I like to call it our lightning round. So
okay.
we got a few little questions to throw at you as we kind of head towards close today. Um, First one being, do you have a favorite technique?
How long a list you want? There's a lot of them that are pretty good. Uh, I'm a big fan of the technique four fifths,
Hmm.
the whip,
Hmm.
really good quick technique. Uh, One of my favorite techniques that everybody criticizes is crossing talon.
Yeah.
Uh, and their issues with crossing talons. Nobody ever grabbed you that way. Uh, yeah, they will. If they're trying, if it's an abduction, they might reach out and grab your arm like that. If it's a kidnapping or something like that. But the beautiful thing, the reason I like crossing talon is so much, is that I don't care what technique you're doing. If you get control of the outside of his arm or outside of his body, you get the outside center line, you can immediately go into crossing talon instantly. It's not just for a wrist grab. Okay, nobody's gonna reach down and grab your wrist. Well, hell, if you let them reach down and grab your wrist, you need to get your wrist grabbed. But the thing is that's not just a wrist grab technique. You know, you could do that technique off a windmill guard. You can do that technique off of several moves. All you have to do is get control of the outside of the arm, and you can go right into crossing talon. So that's kind of one of my favorite because you can put it in anywhere. And when you look at techniques that I think you should have as a favorite technique, it should be something that has multiple purposes to you, where you can get to it real easy from no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, I
So
agree. I
those
agree
are
with
some of
that.
my favorites.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, I like that. It's just as kind of mentioned before, people criticize Kempo because, oh well, you're not going to do whatever technique, but it's the techniques are not designed to do it exactly in that way in every situation. It's more a blueprint or a foundation, and
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
work and
but a lot of
alter
people
based
think
on
that
what you
way.
need. Yeah.
A lot of people
And
think that way, though. It's got to be done from here to here, here to here. You know, or they think, oh, it's got to be done really fast. No, it doesn't. You can do it real slow and make it work if you're doing it right. Um, it, I don't know. It's just like they want to say it has to be this way. Well, it doesn't because the situation is going to change. He's never going to be where you think he's going to be. He's going to be moved off position. The angle's wrong. I can't do that technique now because the angle's over here. The surprise I've had on my students, we do a group class once a week, and we'll do it's kind of like a short technique line where we'll uki techniques for them and stuff. And I'll tell them, I say, okay, you're going to do windmill guard. Okay, I'll walk off and attack them from the side instead of the front. And the blank looks on their face. So, you got me up here. No, I'm over here. Do the technique over here. Do the technique over there. You know, um, the technique we call drawbridge. It's for a shoulder grab from the front. Okay, the guy grabs you from the shoulder from the side. Well, you can't do it that way. Yes, you can. You know, I said if he's not in the right place, put him there. You go there. So and I mean, for for about 2 or 3 weeks when we was doing that, I mean they would be totally lost. Well, the technique's done here. Well, I'm over here now doing that technique. That's the only one you can do. Do it from over here. Do it from back. Do it from behind. Do it from the front. Do it from the side or an angle. And just mess with them. Okay. And there's other times we take and go. It's okay. We're going to do this technique. We're going to do the first move out of this technique. Then you'll do a move out of this technique, and then you'll do a move out of this technique, and we'll make them think. I mean, they get lost. I can't change like that. Well, you should be able to, because he's not going to be where you think he's going to be when you get done. And so we do those kind of games and get them thinking. Uh, do the first move, do something to avoid, whether you're going to the inside. If somebody's trying to hit you with a punch, you got two choices. You can go to the inside or outside. Okay. Whether you go to the inside or the outside is going to determine what you can follow up with or how quick you got to do it. Uh, Another issue I see with people that have this to get speed oriented is if a technique's got four moves, they want to see how fast they can get from move one to four. It's not going to work that way. You've got to see how fast you can get from one to two, two to three, three to four. Because there's going to be these strategic pauses in there that you need to have in there to allow you to assess how effective the previous move was and how he responded to it. So you know what to do later. And I love techniques that allow you to do that because, I mean, it's like a roadmap. All the techniques merge with each other.
Yeah,
So,
exactly, exactly. Uh, yeah, that actually reminds me of a thing, and the listeners can do their homework if they're not familiar with it. But reminds me of a Jim Carrey comedy skit on a show in Living Color show that he was on uh, back in the day, and he was playing a karate instructor,
yeah,
and he's got his
I've seen that clip. Yeah.
yeah, he's got the students like, no, like you got to attack me this way. It's
This
like
way,
that's
that
what,
way.
yeah.
That don't happen that
So
way, dude.
yeah,
Yeah.
be nice if it did. Well, yeah,
No.
don't attack me like that. Attack me like this, and
Well,
so I like that.
bad guys aren't stupid. They learn. So if you do
Yeah,
something that they mess up on, if you try to do that again, they're going to have something to counter it. So you've got
yeah,
to be able to
exactly,
deal. You got to be able to change it up so that they don't know what they can't learn how you're going to defend yourself if the attack goes more than two or three moves.
exactly, exactly. Okay, so our next question there: do you have a favorite form and or set?
Well, let's see. My favorite form is book set.
I am right there
Uh,
with you.
yeah, book set is that's the bomb. The tiger section of Tiger and Crane is really good, and Mass Attacks is really good.
Hmm.
Those are my three that I that I really like. But book set is the top dog of the bunch.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so when I started at the school that I'm at currently, I was a little bummed at the beginning because I had to start over as white belt. I'm totally happy that I did that now, but at the time I was a little bummed out, and I was like, man, I can't wait till I get up the levels, then I can start doing a book set
You can do
again.
book set again.
And
Yeah,
and it was like, we don't do that here. And it's like, what? Like that's my favorite. Like I can't wait to do that. Like that's my favorite form, and you guys don't do that. It's like, no, that's not part of our curriculum. So
yeah,
um, uh, fortunately, I'm still in touch with my original instructor, and uh, got refreshed on all that information, and so I still get to knock out books that I usually do it probably at least a couple of times a week just to keep it
yeah.
keep it
It's a
fresh
beautiful
and
form. It's a good form for physical therapy. It's a good one for respiratory work. I mean, with the breathing stuff you can put in there, and it really works the joints, the shoulders, and stuff,
mhm,
and it keep you moving. It's a great form. Um,
mhm. So
And I
yeah.
hate to see a lot of people have gotten rid of it and they don't do it, but it's such a good form.
Yeah,
Um,
I could see a reason to not have it in the curriculum, but I think it should still be still be offered and still still keep it going, and have it have it as an extra credit or something for schools that it's not part of
yeah,
their curriculum. But yeah, I always like that one. And then when I interviewed my original instructor, I told him like we're gonna have to kind of find some way for me to get with him and learn Tiger and Crane, because that was one of my other favorites. But unfortunately, I left the school before I got to learn it. So I'm gonna have to find a new way to get that get that in. But yeah, I like that. So our next question: if there is anyone that you could train with, living or dead, fictional or non-fictional, who would that be?
well, uh, when I was coming up through the ranks there in Louisville, uh, Joe Lewis was the national director for the fighting system of the Tracy's, and I would have loved to have been able would be able to spend some time with him and develop a deeper into his fighting system, which is what I came up the ranks doing and still teach today. Uh, but he was a wealth of knowledge, and he was probably one of the greatest kickboxers who's ever been out there. And some of the methods that he used and the way he did some of the techniques and stuff, I really liked. I'd like to have been able to train with him. Uh, mm, Roger Green would have been somebody. I've been to several seminars. Him. I used to go out to the camp he used to have out in Tulsa area. Um, I would have loved to train with him. A lot of his principles and ideas. So I got a lot of his stuff, not directly from him, but Gary Avery, my instructor, uh, grew up with Roger Green, and they trained together in Kangdaquan. And so a lot of the things he did, I was already doing, but uh, just to get different presentations and different ways to address the things, because he was big into uh, power hitting, power punching, and stuff. And when I looked at what he was doing, and then I looked compared it to what I was doing and teaching, the only difference was the timing of what we were doing. It was almost the same. I mean, you could really just fall right into it, but the timing was different of how we did things. And uh, so I would have loved to have spent more time with him. Uh, Geographic logistics for both of them were kind of out of my reach, but those would be two of them that I would have really liked to have spent some time with. And
Very nice. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Okay, so then the last and hardest question of them all. So, in honor of Ed Parker's love for jokes and humor, do you have a joke and or a humorous story to share with us?
oh gosh, that one's a stumper. I really can't think of anything. Uh,
No, no worries.
I
It's
use it.
it's been about 50-50 on that. So
Yeah, it's
I've
that's a toughie. I
asked folks.
mean, uh, uh, some of the funny stuff might not be totally appropriate for a
that's
podcast, but uh,
that's also come up come up many a time. So
I got a real good
yeah.
one, but I can't tell you that one now. But
No
uh,
worries. I
no, it's
sometimes
it's
I sometimes joke that we can save that for the Kempo After Dark podcast.
yeah. There you go. Well, one thing I would like to say though is it's something that I put on my website on and stuff is and referring to Kempo and self defense is uh, it's always easier to stop an assault at the beginning of the assault than at the end of it.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I agree.
So you
I
got to
agree.
stay ahead,
That's
be alert, and it kind of addresses itself to be aware of your surroundings. you know, Stop that
yeah,
assault before it starts, or right as it starts before you get into it, because the longer it goes, the harder it is to get out.
exactly, exactly. Well, I like it. I like it. Well, yeah, no, I thank you so much for being on with me and telling me about your story and I'm just really thankful for having you on here. Um, so now is the point where get to do your shameless self promotion. I always mess that up. I got to work on that. Um, so anything that you want to bring up or mention that maybe we haven't talked about, or any kind of plugs for anything you got going on, now is your time to let it all out there.
Well, I just want to extend my appreciation for you asking me on this podcast. I usually don't like to necessarily talk so much about what I do and stuff. I like to talk about more what my students are doing and how well they do, and I let them talk about me more than anything. Um, so it's hard sometimes to uh, talk about your accomplishments and stuff without sounding like you're bragging and stuff, and I'm just not into that uh, kind of thing. Uh, you know, I stay in Kempo for my students. They're where it's at. They're the ones that I do this for. They're the ones that keep me going and make me want to do it. Um, I'm available to do seminars wherever uh, it's needed and have in the past. But I am slowing down a little bit. Old age is starting to catch up with creep up on me there a little, but um, it's I don't feel like my Kemp as long as my Kempo journey's been. It's been 48 years this year, this coming year, and throughout all those years, I have strived for the students more than myself. And uh, one of the hardest things in my Kempo journey that I had to deal with was when Grandmaster Prasant uh, promoted me the last time. I said, I don't know if I want to do this or not. He said, no, I want you here. And uh, there was a lot of responsibility. And so, we've just dredged on, and I still kept it for the students. I still wanted them to be the best they could be. And um, I just feel like that's where it's at. You know, it's not me, it's them, it's for them.
Yeah, no, that's very well said. Yeah, no, really appreciate all that you do, and I know the students feel the same, and that's definitely something that with this podcast that I want to get out there is for people to tell their stories. I want to hear the stories, and not just the the people at the top of the food chain, but I want to hear everyone's story. So you can be the 10th degree, or you can be the white belt that's still on his first week trial. I want to hear everyone's stories and journeys and perspectives, so that we can have this. We can spread the art and grow the art and connect with each other. And so that's my hope for the this. And as I continue to talk to people and just get their perspectives, that's I want things to grow and have a brighter future for Kempo and for people in general. So yeah, you're a big part of that, and so yeah, I thank you again for being on. And we'll definitely have to do another episode down the road, and get more stories and more insights and whatever else we happen to come across. So yeah, no, I thank you again, and I can't wait for everyone to be able to hear this, and we'll kind of go from there.
I appreciate you having me on. I want to thank you for doing that. And one thing, I've noticed that you're doing more so than some of the other podcast people are doing is they want the big names, the big names. You're getting some of the big names, but you're also getting some of the people that are behind the scenes and are the ones that nobody knows about. You know,
Mm.
the ones that are quietly in the sidelines doing their thing and doing a good job and training good martial artists and stuff. Those people get overlooked, and you're not overlooking those people. So it's
Yeah.
very much appreciated. I know. So
Yeah,
keep
no,
up the good
everyone
work.
has a story to tell. Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, everyone has a story to tell, and the big names can't be the big names without the little guys and gals out there to get them in that position. So yeah, we all have a story that's worth sharing. So uh, yeah, I want to get all of those out there as I can. So. Um, so yeah, no, thank you, and I will be in touch when this is ready to go out. And yeah, thank you again.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to My Empty Hands. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend. If you didn't enjoy it, please share it with an enemy. If you'd like to be a guest, or if you would like to recommend a guest for the show, please email me at podcast@talkingkempo.com. Thank you.